Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The deadly church shooting in Texas overshadowing President Trump's Tokyo tour.
So sad. Sutherland Springs, Texas, such a beautiful, wonderful area with incredible people. Who would ever think a thing like this could happen?
At a joint press conference with Japan's prime minister, the president offered his condolences while calling the shooting a mental health problem at the highest level.
Mental health is your problem here. This was a very, based on preliminary reports, very deranged individual. But this isn't a guns situation. I mean, we could go into it, but it's a little bit soon to go into it.
Too soon to talk gun control. He said the same thing in the wake of last month's Las Vegas massacre, despite his immediate call for changes in immigration policy in the wake of last week's truck rampage in New York City. What he is willing to talk about here on this 5-country Asian tour, North Korea. President Trump not ruling out military action while declaring Pyongyang a threat to the civilized world.
The era of strategic patience is over. Some people said that my rhetoric is very strong, but look what's happened with very weak rhetoric over the last 25 years. Look where we are right now.
And we have a new ABC News Washington Post poll to tell you about this morning. Take a look at these numbers. An overwhelming majority of Americans say they do not trust President Trump to handle North Korea. That number is 67%. As for the job that he is doing, 37% approve, 59% disapprove. Robin and George, he still enjoys strong support, overwhelming support from his base.
Oh, for Pete's sake, for the love of Jesus. I just, it's Monday, so there had to be another mass shooting. See, it's America, everybody. This is what freedom smells like, death. Our freaking gun lifestyle is killing us. Oh, God. And he's standing over there in Japan looking like a complete and utter moron, because to get a gun in Japan, I mean, it's like you got to jump through hoops with a dog and have flags in your mouth and be able to bend over and contort and then show reason why, and then only in the home for self-protection, and then possibly, the ammunition's under lock and key. But here, hey, man, here, everybody gets a gun. And he's, this is a mental health issue at the highest level. That's what I think every time I see him. That's what I think I'm looking at every time I look at him. A mental health issue at the highest level. Oh, I just couldn't believe what he said. This is not a gun situation, everybody. It's not a gun situation.
And I think that mental health is your problem here. This was
it's your problem
very,
here.
based on preliminary reports, very deranged individual. A lot of problems over a long period of time. We have a lot of mental health problems in our country, as do other countries. But this isn't a guns situation. I mean, we could go into it, but it's a little bit soon to go into it. But
shut up. You know, if we have the same mental health problems as every other country has, how come every other country doesn't have the same death count that we have by gun? How is that? How is that possible? We have the same mental health problems that other people have, but we give guns to... And remember, when he first became president, what he did by executive order, he made it easier for people with mental health issues who couldn't even manage their own affairs, who needed somebody to help them fill out the paperwork because they couldn't do it themselves. They could get a gun. He overturned an Obama executive order that said you couldn't, and he said if you did have a mental health issue and you couldn't manage your own affairs and you needed help with, filling out your disability application, you shouldn't be excluded because that would prejudice the mentally ill. Now he says, you're asking me what we got here. What I'm saying you got here is a mental health situation here is what you got here. That's what you got here. Seriously, a gun situation, he called it. We don't have a gun situation. because shootings have nothing to do with guns. Thoughts and prayers, everybody. That's what we offer. That's what America offers, thoughts and prayers. Unless, of course, you're black or Muslim, in which case we scrub the Emma Lazarus poem right off the Statue of Liberty. Your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, gotta go. Gotta get them out of here. Go, go, go. Oh, and by the way, over the weekend, this story got buried because everybody else has to get buried. Tamari. So this story got buried, but we have people in this country who have been here for 20 years. Yes, 20 years under a program known as Temporary Protected Status. They are from Central America. Hi, Costa Rica. Hola. Hola, amigos. Hola, familia. I apologize. Lo siento mucho. Mucho. Para mi presidente es un idiota. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson sent a letter to the acting DHS secretary who was, only acting, badly. No Maggie Gyllenhaal here, Elaine Duke. Yes. Oh, did you watch that, everybody? Did everybody watch The Deuce? Gotta say. Maggie Gyllenhaal, she's genius, man. I've never seen anybody that free in my life. It's insane. That is just unbelievable. But anyway, he wrote to her to tell her that conditions in Central America and Haiti that have been used to justify a protected status here in the United States for people who have been here for 20 years, who have their children born here, who have 275,000 American citizen children between them, the protected status is no longer necessary. And so they can go. And they should ready themselves for deportation. I swear to God, this is unbelievable to me. Their protected status will expire in early January. And they all came here. They were exempted from deportation after major earthquakes like the one in Haiti that killed 200,000 people. Hurricane Mitch, all the way back in 1998. So routinely, their protected status has been renewed each and every time, for like a year and a half. Now all of a sudden we're saying, no, you have to go. It's unbelievable. We have to watch this story because they haven't decided what to do yet, but it does look like Flynn. Flynn. Oh, Flynn's in trouble. It does look like Kelly. You get all your, your freaky generals confused. Oh, speaking of general, did you see this article over the weekend with these admirals that were identified as being on the take? I mean, like hundreds of our admirals on the take with Fat Leonard, some freaking guy who was paying them off, and the Paradise Papers, and everybody who's not you. Everybody who's not me apparently has figured out a way to make freaking money off of Russians. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's a sick freaking country. The DNC obviously was dirty. They obviously picked Hillary. Hillary was the DNC. That's the story there. But let's just stick to the shooting for just a brief moment because, it's too soon, everybody. It's just too soon. It's always too soon. October 1st was the Las Vegas shooting. And it was too soon to talk about it, and whoops, there it goes again. It was too soon. And what did I say? You have to do it now because there'll be another one. And here we are. 64-year-old men are now able to take out 58 people from 30 stories up. Okay, because of this weaponry, because of these weapons of war. I mean, it's unbelievable. And people are going to tell you this stuff about this kid. Okay, and he was 26 years old, ex-Air Force. He was court-martialed. It appears he assaulted his wife, his child. He's a bad guy. Got a year in the brig, and then was released. No one notifies anybody that this guy is, a degenerate wife beater that was punished. Does the Air Force have procedures? The Army? Does the Navy? No, you revere us so much. I got news for you. Stop revering us and learn. Just learn. If you're in the brig, if you've been court-martialed, We don't make, distinctions in the military between misdemeanors and felonies. We don't. If you're court-martialed, it's a felony. Period. Even if what you did was a misdemeanor in real life, because you give up your civil rights when you join the military. You become GI, government issue, and you live under the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, not the Constitution. Okay, and so if you are court-martialed, it doesn't matter what you did. Once Article 32 is invoked and you're adjudicated guilty in the military, it's like a felony outside. And by the way, the law says somewhere that if you beat your wife, you shouldn't have a gun. You really shouldn't be able to pass background check. And yet, idiot boy here, who had both those things going for him. Oh, yeah, he beat his wife, he beat his kid, he was in the brig for a year, court-martialed, busted a couple of ranks. I think he made it to sergeant. Now they threw him out as an airman. An E1. Lowest rank there is. And he was able to buy a gun at Academy Sports and Outdoors in San Antonio. Able to buy a gun. Not a gun situation, Trump says. Nope, not a gun situation.
Fortunately, somebody else had a gun that was shooting in the opposite direction. Otherwise, it would have been as bad as it was. It would have been much worse.
I don't know what he's talking about in this monotone voice of his, but this has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that this guy threw his gun on the ground, got into his truck, and ran and then killed himself. I don't know what's wrong with him, particularly right now. Maybe his meds are low. I don't know.
But this is a mental health problem at the highest level. It's a very, very sad event. These are great people and a very, very sad event. But that's the way I view it.
Thank you. That's the way I view it. Thank you. I don't give a rat's ass. We're all out here. Everybody, it's the price of freedom. For who? Am I free to move about the country? Can I go to a movie? Can I go to a concert? Can my kid go to elementary school? Can they go to high school in Colorado? Can they go to church? Can they go to church in North Carolina? Can they go to church in Texas? Can we go to a Luby's diner? Where can we go? What can we do? This is the price of freedom. Freedom does not smell like death, okay? It's just, let freedom ring. Should not have the pungent odor of decomposing corpses and a vision of maggots, coming through your eyeballs. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And all we have to offer, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. I tweeted that the NRA could actually, because, he said, oh, God is going to protect God this and God that. Yeah, he's like the least religious president that we've seen come down the pike, okay? But God this and God that and thoughts and prayers and thoughts and prayers. And, I tweeted out, the NRA could actually kill God with an Uzi or an AK or an AR. They could actually kill God. And they would still say and do nothing because the Republicans are cowards. The Democrats are disorganized. They can't figure their way out of a paper bag. They rigged their own primaries. But the Republicans are cowards. And I would rather, have a story come out that that the party, you only get two in a presidential election, the Electoral College being what it is and all, you get two people out of 350 million. What a great system we got over here. That's a case of mental illness at the highest level. But honest to God, man, I'd rather have somebody that, said, hey, I'm going to fundraise, but I get all the money, than somebody who looks at me in the face and tells me, if the Muslim name is associated with the death, then we must do something about immigration laws and extreme vetting, which we already do. But if it's a white guy, it's just, hey, he had some mental health issues. It's not a gun thing.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Hey everybody, it's Brett from the Randi Rhodes Show. Independent media is the future, and Randi's leading the way. And it's ironic, the more freedom she gained, the more expensive it got. It's crucial now, more than ever, to keep this show pure and free of corporate influence so Randi can tell the hard truths. The first step to change is an unbiased media, and for that, we need your help. So please, go to randirhodes.com/support and subscribe, you bastards.
Yeah, you could buy tile at a chain store if you wanted to. You could wait for a kid to try and answer your questions about what's this made of, or how do I install it, or what's in stock. But what if you wanted serious craftsmanship? What if you wanted custom design, handmade, to order from your imagination, or an inspiration photo that you love? Probably you think you can't anymore, but I did. When it was time to shop tile, I came across a family-owned business that still handcrafts each and every individual tile, matching your colors, your inspiration, your design. Tempest Tile Works. They're based in Portland, Oregon, and they still handcraft the most magnificent tile. Let them match to your fabrics or to your countertops or to anything you can envision for your bath or kitchen. Teeny tiny tiles to oversized, their art or yours. It's all doable, it's all affordable, and it's all individually made just for your project. Visit Tempest Tile Works and look at their amazing gallery of designs and styles, and give up the chain stores. Tempest Tile Works, custom made. TempestTileWorks.com.
This is the voice of the resistance. You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network.
Dear fellow progressive, these are the times that try men's souls. It is not the first time our country has been in peril, and it won't be the last. It is, however, a unique threat from within, one the precise likes of which we have never seen before. It is our modern media mix that has enabled an incurious, unserious, pathological liar and textbook narcissist to accede to the highest office in the land. His is a world of make-believe, one that could only have been concocted by a student of reality TV. At least we know he studied something. The imagined slights, the trumped-up, pun intended, feuds, the insulting nicknames, the Twitter diarrhea, it is all of a piece. Entertaining, funny even in another context, but when you're busy blowing up the country's longest-running foreign relationships, devastating the environment, threatening trade wars, and embracing all the wrong actors, it's really hard to find the humor. At Progressive Voices, we take holding the powerful accountable as our most serious mission, and there is nothing more important to us today than making sure the PV audience is informed with unbiased information, and that more and more people become part of our audience, and therefore are better informed than they can be by relying solely on the mainstream media, which, in so many ways, has shrunk from its duty as the watchdog of democracy. It is our sincere hope that you will help us in this important mission at this most critical hour. Go to progressivevoices.com and make your donation today. Please give whatever you can. Remember, we are a tax-exempt 501c3, meaning that your donations are fully tax-deductible. Thanks for supporting the Progressive Voices Network.
Hi, it's Randi Rhodes. Listen to me on the PV live stream or on demand or both on the PV app. Just go to progressivevoices.com or download the Progressive Voices app.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
And the gangs and the drugs that have stolen too many lives and robbed our country of so much unrealized potential. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now.
He's such a freaking liar. Well, he's the douchiest of the douches. I swear to God, every time he talked about crime and gun violence, it always had to do with you black people. You black people. I mean, it's just like so amazing. And the last guy, 64-year-old pasty-ass white guy, okay, with like hundreds of weapons in a hotel room and scattered around his Del Webb communities where he was living out his senior years. Mental health issue, you know. Now you got this 26-year-old pasty white guy. You know, he killed his grandma. He killed his wife's grandma. I mean, this was a family domestic violence situation that went so far off the rails. Unbelievable. And the guy could walk into a gun store and somehow, get an AK and post it on Facebook and make love to it on a, YouTube video and just, hump it and pet it and look at this badass bitch, and sexualize it and make it into a female thing. Just unbelievable. But everybody, we can outgun the gunmen. So everybody get armed, because that's what we're going to have to. We're going to outgun the gunmen, or we're going to think them and pray them out of our existence. We're supposed to double down on our thoughts and prayers now. It's like tax cuts for the wealthy. It'll trickle down somehow. It'll just trickle down, Double down, everybody. Everything will be great if we just get enough thoughts, if we just get enough prayers, and if we just get enough tax cuts. Why, it'll all trickle the freak down, which is about what the deuce is about. It never trickles down to the people that are actually, doing the work. It's just unbelievable. So here's what Fox concluded over the weekend when they found out he was military. It just shattered them. Literally, it rocked their world. They didn't know what to do with it.
This suspect showed off an AR-15 style gun on Facebook recently, and that he possibly has a military background, bringing in Vincent Hill, a former Nashville police officer. Again, Vincent, we have not been able to confirm this ourselves here at Fox News, but based on that information that I just reported from ABC News, what does that say to you?
Well, Arthel could say several things. I mean, if he was military, could it have been that he was radicalized somewhere while he was deployed for the U.S. military? Or if you think back to 1995 and a guy named Timothy McVeigh, who was a military veteran who actually killed a bunch of people for whatever reason he did. So there's several things that come into question here. But the main thing that sticks out to me is the fact that this individual was apparently posting pictures of assault rifles on his Facebook. Now, is that illegal? No, not by any means. But again, it goes back to what I said earlier. If you see something, say something. If you hear something, repeat it. And I'm sure he wasn't just posting these pictures there without himself in the picture or without some type of comments on those posts that he made on Facebook.
He's a jackass.
Seriously, dude, did you go on that Fox News and not even bother to look at this guy or his Facebook page? He was radicalized in the military. That's what happened. He was radicalized. He's a jihadist. They just couldn't accept that. And then he brings up Timothy McVeigh for whatever reason. Timothy McVeigh was one of these, anti-government people. He was one of these, what do you think he attacked a federal building for? Killed babies, too, with fertilizer bombs. And honest to God, you sickos, you freaks, you people who deny reality. He was radicalized. That was their conclusion on Fox News. And then we had to suffer through Kellyanne Conway this morning.
Yeah, the president said this guy was deranged. This is about mental health. It's not about gun control. Liberals, of course, are making it about gun control. You have Chelsea Handler, who says innocent people go to church on Sunday to honor their God, and while doing so get shot and killed. What country? America? Why? Republicans, she says. What's your response?
I won't even dignify it. I'm sorry that we even have to show her Twitter comments, because it's so beyond any type of reasonable response that anyone should have. Why people see politics immediately. It's just like I said in Las Vegas over a month ago. You had families literally still looking for their loved ones through the rubble and remains in Las Vegas, running from hospital to hospital. There were people who were injured who then went on to pass away. And yet people are taken to Twitter in the comfort of their very luxurious lives, pointing fingers, and as far as I can tell, never really help in between the tweet storms. never really help charities, never help people to heal.
How do you know
never
that?
Try to reach across for understanding.
You just make this crap up.
So I'm very happy at times like this that President Trump is our commander-in-chief and our leader in this nation, because unfortunately every president has to help heal the nations at different times, different tragedies. But the rush to judgment, particularly by people who are just see politics and Trump derangement in every single thing they do, it doesn't help the victims, and it's disrespectful to the dead.
Oh, it's disrespectful to the dead. Refusing to fix the problem that caused their deaths is disrespectful to the dead. All right, everybody. So let's just take that to its logical conclusion. No more cancer research. It's disrespectful to the dead cancer victims. It's disrespectful, say. Once you're dead, you're dead. We can't do anything about what caused your death. She is so, and why in the world did they go to Chelsea Handler's Twitter feed? I mean, I love Chelsea Handler. I think she's great. But why Chelsea Handler's Twitter feed? And what is this conclusion that Chelsea Handler doesn't give any money to charity, and Chelsea Handler is a ne'er-do-well, and Chelsea Handler lays on her sofa, and Chelsea Handler is, okay, she's a midget lover. She loves small men. Somebody's got to do it. But honestly, what is with all this made-up crap? Not doing anything about gun control is disrespectful to the people who die from gunshot violence here in the United States. And Kellyanne, it's dangerous to the living who don't want to die of a random mentally ill person. And by the way, did you forget that the commander-in-chief that you're so proud of made it easier for people with mental illness to get guns? People who can't even manage their own affairs and need help filling out the disability forms so that they can get some income while they're mentally disabled can also have a gun? What is wrong with her? How does she live with herself? I can't. But you know what? No one cares, because this is America. And every day somebody is going to, and of course the weaponry has gotten like so warlike that, you can have a 26-year-old kid who can take out, 26 people. He actually shot 46 people. He actually shot, this is the number they don't want to tell. He actually shot 46 people. 20 of them are still in the hospital. Okay? They were aged 2 to 72. Las Vegas, he injured like 500 people and killed 58 people. But there's nothing we can do about it, right? Just thoughts and prayers, everybody. Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. While they make it easier for any lunatic, for any felon, for any freak of nature, for any wife beater in Texas to walk into a store and, if you're honest on your background form, because I don't think the military notifies, like when you go home. First, people said that he bought the gun before he was court-martialed. So what are you going to do about that? Then we find out, no, he bought it after he was court-martialed, but they said, don't worry about the background check, so no felonies, no. Okay, here you go. But if he couldn't get through the store owner, if he couldn't, because, once you're court-martialed, I don't think there's any reportage that takes place where they notify every gun dealer in the United States saying, these 5 guys were court-martialed and they are not eligible. These 6 guys beat their wives. I don't think that happens. But if they couldn't, you know what they would do then, don't you? They'd go to a gun show and they would buy it from a private seller. And there would be no background check. Or they'd buy it on freaking line and it would arrive in the mail. Just like fentanyl arrives in the mail. This is so freaking twisted, and it's so sick, and it's so scary out there, and it's so dangerous. And I mean, Fox concludes, oh, well, he was one of our great troops, so he must have been radicalized. He must be a Muslim sympathizer. And, if you saw him posting pictures, listen, I would have to turn in almost everybody who argues with me on Facebook, because all they send me is pictures of their guns and their Harleys and their white long beards. I mean, it's just, this is just unbelievable. So, and then somebody beat the crap out of Rand Paul over the weekend. Did you see that? Rand Paul got the shit kicked out of him. His neighbor, oh my God, this country is so complete. This man, Donald Trump, has literally radicalized this country to the point where Everybody's got to choose a side. Steve Scalise gets a freaking shot. And then you have Rand Paul getting the crap kicked out of him. Frederica Wilson, she can't go back to Congress because of the death threats that have been leveled against her. People on Twitter, God help you if you have an opinion. You get death threats every day. I want to see you in an oven. Jew bitch, you should die. You know, I mean, the whole country is radicalized. The whole country. It's unbelievable. So here you have Rand Paul. Apparently he was mowing his lawn at his house in Bowling Green, Kentucky. He lives in a gated community, which is like, I swear to God, I used to say, okay, so now I live in a gated community, so I'm inside the gates with all the criminals. Because there's so much drug dealing going on in these gated communities, because the housewives are addicted to oxycodone, and the kids are addicted to roxycodone. Then you got your mailman delivering the fentanyl and the carfentanil, and you got the cops coming to. I mean, it's just like it's crazy. There is no safe place on earth anymore. It's just unbelievable. It's off the hook. So Rand Paul lives in a gated community, right? And he's mowing his lawn with like 4 other people, they're telling me. I mean, I don't even know how this happened. And his neighbor, who, it's a very, ritzy gated community. The houses are really, really huge. And he's got a lot of property. And he's out on a riding mower with 4 other people doing his lawn. And his neighbor, who is apparently an anesthesiologist who has turned pain management doctor. Interesting. Yeah, he's a pain management doctor, and I don't know what's happened, and nobody will tell us what the argument was about. Of course, the neighbors who love Rand, oh, he's a liberal, he's a socialist, he's a right, just like this guy from the military was radicalized, and he's a jihadi. But okay, so they're telling us that the guy from next door, who's also a doctor, he's a pain, Rand Paul's an ophthalmologist. And the guy who beat the crap out of Rand Paul is a pain management doctor, former anesthesiologist, left his job, and they apparently had worked together at the hospital. I don't know why you need an ophthalmologist at the hospital. I guess if somebody just mashes their eyeball out, mashed, just comes up and mashes, Anyway, they worked together at the hospital. Apparently, they knew each other. And this anesthesiologist beat Rand Paul like to a pulp. 5 fractured ribs, 3 displaced fractures, meaning the bones are partly or completely cracked off, like, severed but not broken, but, splintered, right into the lung. His lungs are either bruised or pierced. We don't know what the damage to the other organs are. Now they're watching him for, bleeding and pneumonia and other internal organ damage. But the dispute remains a mystery. It remains a mystery. But I mean, look at this crap that's going on in this country. This is off the hook, man. This whole place is turning like completely violent. It's the whole country is completely off the hook. You got like, okay, let's just say Trump declares that the opioid epidemic is a national health emergency, but we're giving out guns like freaking potato chips, like popcorn, like candy. Pain management doctor attacks ophthalmologist neighbor in the yard, beats him so severely. I can't, it's unbelievable. You had a Montana congressional candidate, right, who won his election after he attacked a reporter. Remember that? You got Judge Roy Moore, who pulls out a gun at his campaign rally and he gets elected. You got Republican candidates on TV purposely shooting semi-automatic weapons on their TV ads to show that they're all about defending themselves with semi-automatic weapons. I mean, and now you got all these people getting like trash can beatings in their backyards while they're mowing their lawns.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Hey guys, it's Scotty, Randy's producer here, and as many of you know, I grew up in Randy's house. Eating her food, watching her TV, and like most kids, ignorantly not following her advice. And one of her biggest pieces of advice was never take a job in radio because the big companies that run radio, they suck. Well, I didn't listen and ended up working in radio. And as always, Randi was right, they sucked. But I'm here now, and I can tell you that it takes a lot of chutzpah to break away from the big companies and start your own show. But you know what else it takes? Your support. We are independent media, so the only financial backers we have are you, the best listeners in the world. And we can't do it without you. So please go to RandiRhodes.com and support the show, buy a stinking podcast, donate some money, and keep us going.
Hey, I need to tell you something about Herky Jerky, because over the past year, you've been asking me to ask Jason from Herky Jerky if they will ever produce a turkey jerky. Well, I'm proud to tell you that he says absolutely yes. And not only does he have it now, it's absolutely spectacular. Let me start with the taste. It is extremely soft and slightly sweet, and it's bite-sized pieces that taste just like the homemade oven-roasted turkey that you have on Thanksgiving. It's made from turkeys raised without added hormones and just the right amount of salt, natural smoke flavoring, and spices that will make your taste buds go wild. And you asked for healthy. Well, Herky Jerky Turkey Jerky has no nitrates, preservatives, MSG, or artificial ingredients, absolutely zero fat, and packs a whopping 11 grams of protein per serving, and very low in cholesterol. Quite simply, I think this is one of the healthiest and best tasting high protein snacks you can get. And for the whole month of November, $5 off any turkey jerky pack you desire. $5 off, just use promo code TURKEY. They don't sell the little dinky bags that you get at the gas station. They're 14-ounce zip-sealed packs, and they're meant to last. Herky Jerky, making quality jerky and meat snacks for almost 25 years. Gotta tell you, I believe this is as good as anything I've ever tasted and the best thing they've ever produced. Try some today, herkyjerky.com.
This is Sam from Indivisible. Be part of the resistance. Listen to the Indivisible podcast when you want, on demand at progressivevoices.com or on the PV app. Download the PV app now in the app and Android stores.
Take action and hold Congress accountable. This is Ezra Levin on the Progressive Voices Network, asking you to join the millions who decided to become part of the movement to resist Trump's agenda. Check out indivisibleguide.com to start resisting on your home turf. Keep listening for more ways you can get involved.
Be part of the resistance. Make sure you listen to this week's new Indivisible podcast, available on demand at progressivevoices.com or on the PV app.
This is the voice of the resistance. You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
You've talked about wanting to put extreme vetting on people trying to come into the United States, but I wonder if you would consider extreme vetting for people trying to buy a gun.
Trying to what?
Buy a gun.
Well, you know, you're bringing up a situation that probably shouldn't be discussed too much right now. We could let a little time go by, but it's okay if you feel that that's an appropriate question, even though we're the heart of South Korea. I will certainly answer your question. If you did what you're suggesting, there would have been no difference 3 days ago, and you might not have had that very brave person who happened to have a gun or a rifle in his truck go out and shoot him and hit him and neutralize him. And I can only say this, if he didn't have a gun, instead of having 26 dead, he would have had hundreds more dead.
What?
So that's the way I feel about it.
And are you
not going to help?
And are you considering any kind of gun control policy going
When you
forward?
look at the city with the strongest gun laws in our nation is Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And Chicago is a disaster. It's a total disaster. Just remember, if this man didn't have a gun or a rifle, you'd be talking about a much worse situation in the great state of Texas. Thank you.
Give him fake briefings.
What does that even mean?
It means they'll tell him stuff. He won't know the difference.
He doesn't know the difference. He has no idea what he's talking about. Okay, how could it be worse than this guy shooting everybody in the church? I mean, everybody in the church was either wounded or killed. Everybody. You know, this argument that more guns means less murder, it's a ridiculous thing. It's a stupid thing. It makes no sense. the idea that we are 4.4% of the population of the globe, but we here in America own 42% of all the guns. And we're the only ones that have this mass murder epidemic. It's like a disease, okay? Is unbelievable. Nobody bothers to report this guy. You know, everybody, wants to pray about it. We should send thoughts and prayers. Everybody's got mental illness in there. Yes, they do, but they don't see mass shootings like we do. They don't see suicides like we do. They don't see homicides like we do. And this stupid BS about Chicago, Chicago city limits. Illinois, not so much. Indiana, no. Wisconsin, most lax. This is just, he is such a tool of the establishment. You want to see something? Go to the homework section. Go to RandiRhodes.com. Go to the homework section. It's free, everybody. Although we would appreciate anything that you might want to contribute at RandiRhodes.com/support or RandiRhodes.com/shop. Buy a stinking podcast. But RandiRhodes.com/homework will take you to the homework page. And you know what? The gun lobby. You can see right there how much your representative gets from the gun lobby. $5.9 million given to Republicans in just the 2016 election cycle, and a measly $106,000 to Democrats. $5.9 million to the GOP and $106,000 to the Democrats. So, you go figure out what's going on here. And you tell me why Fox News is sitting there saying, oh, we need to pray about it. That's what we need to do. We just need to, pray.
You sent out a tweet calling for the prayers, which many of us did. The reaction in the celebrity world to your call for prayers from Michael McKeon, Will Wheaton, others, basically saying, essentially, this is the Republicans' fault, and they were praying. And maybe it's time to do something other than pray, Speaker Ryan. Blaming the GOP.
It's disappointing. It's sad. And this is what you'll get from the far secular left. People who do not have faith, don't understand faith, I guess I'd have to say. And it is the right thing to do is to pray in moments like this. Because, look, prayer works. And I know you believe that, and I believe that. And when you hear the secular left doing this thing, no wonder you've got so much polarization and disunity in this country when people think like that.
Oh, you know what? You can go F yourself. Seriously, dude. They were in church. What do you do in church? They were freaking... What, were they praying for their own death? Prayer works, everybody. Prayer works. So apparently this church in Texas, they were praying for their own death. And it came true because prayer works. Listen, this is a poor substitute for him doing his job. He's not the pastor leader of the House of Representatives. He's not a cleric. He's not the what do you call the guy that gives the prayer at the House of Representatives? It's not clergy. He's the Speaker of the House. He's supposed to write legislation. This is a sick response. Just twisted. Oh, the secular left. You know what? Screw you. I'm not a secular anything, okay? And for you to smear and paint people with this broad brush simply because they believe in the Sermon on the Mount, they believe that the poor and the meek will inherit the earth, they believe that trickle down was devised by the devil. Give me a freaking break. We should pray. Oh, you always hear this from the secular left. No, you hear this from thinking people who understand you will not do your job because you receive so much freaking money. Here, let's see. Paul Ryan, $171,977 from the NRA. By far, the most. Very, 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 very sick. Okay, so then we have Ainsley Earhart on the Fox News. And her theory is that if she had to die anywhere, she would want to be in church. Because this is where she feels closest to Jesus. By the way, I'm a Jew. And the people who killed Jesus, I don't, I forgive you. But I'm more of a Moses girl. So what is this conversation that they are having here?
We've been reporting this shouldn't happen in a church, but I was downstairs talking with some people that work here that we all talk about our faith and we share the same beliefs. We were saying there's no other place we would want to go other than church, because I'm there asking for forgiveness. I feel very close to Christ when I'm there. So I'm trying to look at some positives here and know that those people are with the Lord now.
They're with the Lord now. They're experiencing, what did she say? Their forever life or whatever. I mean, seriously, dude. Everyone at Fox News is the same religion. Everyone there believes the same thing. It's freaking New York. I really don't think so. I'm just really, really clear that everyone that works at Fox News is not a born-again Christian. Just saying, as a New Yorker who actually worked across the street from Fox News, watching everybody leave the building, I don't think they're all Christian. It's just my own personal observation that everybody that works at Fox News is not the same religion as Ainsley, and not everybody believes that they would, like to die in church. Some people would like to die having sex. Some people would like to die in their sleep. Oh my God. Unbelievable. All right. Now we have, this report. This is gonna send chills up and down your spine. I swear to God it is. And this is the only reason why this shooting is still a story for me. Because other than that, I gotta say, sadly, I can't make myself feel shock anymore. I mean, I wake up on a Sunday and there's a church shooting. I go, oh, it's another Sunday in America. I wake up on Monday and kids are shot in an elementary school. Oh, it's another school shooting. You wake up and there's another shooting in a Walmart. Oh, well, the shooter's dead. I'm not interested. Everybody knows it. I'm the only person that's going to say it out loud. Second that the active shooter is killed, it's like, okay, just another day. Shooter's dead. We don't even report half of the mass killings in this country. We don't even report suicides anymore. It's not even a thing. It's not even a thing. I remember when there used to be reports of mothers, hitting their kids in a Walmart, smacking them around. That made the news. Not anymore. They can go into a Walmart. You can kill, several people, and they'll still sell you a gun. I mean, it's just so sick. But check this out. This is unbelievable. Here's a little bit more about the shooter.
Now we're learning that in 2012, June of 2012, he escaped from this mental health facility in New Mexico, and they found him at essentially a travel center, a bus stop of sorts, trying to leave. Now, this again, just a couple months after those assault charges were weighed against him with his then wife and stepson. At the time, they noted that he was facing a court-martial in the military and that he had levied threats against his military superiors. Again, none of this is mentioned, but the report did indicate at least that it had been entered into NCIS. So we're still sort of trying to figure out why this wasn't listed somewhere in the documentation when he was trying to obtain weapons, especially since, as you said, the report states that he tried to get firearms onto an Air Force base in the past. So this complicates the story even more, Brooke, as we're trying to figure out how this coincides, how this sort of mixes with that violent past. And once again, why none of this was flagged into the civilian system, into the FBI database to prevent him from getting those firearms.
Swell. The guy was sent to a behavioral institution pending his court-martial. Here's a story from Houston. This is a local TV station, Channel 2 in Houston. Channel 2 I swear this is the local news. So I'm going to read it verbatim because it's really, it's got typos and stuff because, it's local. But Channel 2 uncovered, I swear to God, law enforcement documents showing Kelly, I'll just call him that, I don't even want to say his name, escaped from a behavioral center in New Mexico a little more than 5 years before Sunday's deadly rampage in Sutherland Springs. The incident report fired by the El Paso Police Department states Kelly was picked up at a bus terminal in downtown El Paso before midnight on the evening of June 7th, 2012. Now remember, he's still in the Air Force in 2012. Okay, this is like crazy. The report states 2 officers were dispatched to the terminal to look into a missing person report. When they arrived, the 2 officers learned Kelly had escaped from Peak Behavioral Health Services in Santa Teresa, New Mexico. Anybody listening in New Mexico that's familiar with Santa Teresa or Park Behavioral Services, I'd like to know what kind of a inpatient facility that is. That would be very helpful because they don't say. A witness on the scene told the officers that Kelly, who was 21 years old at the time, had, quote, suffered from mental disorders and had plans to run from Peak Behavioral Services by purchasing a bus ticket out of state. The witnesses informed officers that Kelly, quote, was a danger to himself and others, as he had already been caught sneaking firearms onto Holloman Air Force Base, located approximately 100 miles from the bus terminal. The report further states that Kelly, quote, was attempting to carry out death threats he had made on his military superiors. The Air Force has no record of this. None of this is reported to the FBI. None of this is reported to NCIS. None of this is... Yeah, right. Kelly was released to police officers from Sunland Park Police Department in New Mexico, located just across the state lines. Peak Behavioral Health Services is located a few miles from Santa Teresa, New Mexico. The final page of the report states that there was an entry submitted to the FBI's National Crime Information Center database. That's NCIS, which apparently nobody, who sold him a gun wants to say that it popped up on the background check. No one wants to say. But they submitted this to the FBI, these local police officers in New Mexico. The El Paso incident took place months after Air Force documents state Kelly had attacked his wife by striking and kicking her and pulling her hair. He also pointed a loaded firearm at her. He was also charged with unlawfully striking his child on various occasions between April 2011 and June 2011. Records show Kelly pleaded guilty to assault on a child and assault on his wife. Records show he pleaded not guilty on the others. I didn't write this. That were withdrawn and dismissed with prejudice after Kelly's arraignment. I don't know who the others were. Kelly received a general court-martial and was sentenced on November 7th, 2012. He was handed a bad conduct discharge, 12 months of confinement, and a reduction in rank to E1, which is entry level. Okay, that when you show up, you're an E1. The sentence came exactly 5 months to the day after the attempted escape from the behavioral facility in New Mexico. An Air Force spokesperson told Channel 2 Investigates that they cannot comment on the 2012 report, citing the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA. It's private. But isn't being adjudicated mentally ill something that would keep you from owning a firearm? Just saying. Rick Rousseau, a retired Army colonel and judge advocate for 27 years, said he's not surprised that Kelly may have been in a behavioral facility in the midst of his legal battles. Quote, it would be a normal course of negotiation that he had been in behavioral health in advance of going to court. And then Rousseau said that if the move was a preventative measure by Kelly and his team, it probably would have been revealed. At a minimum, the defense attorney may have told the prosecutor. You're prosecuting a guy for beating children. You're prosecuting a guy for beating his wife, pulling a gun on her, for smuggling guns onto an Air Force base, for threatening his superior officers with death. He's sent to a behavioral facility and the prosecutor isn't told about this, or the defense attorney. Please, this is so freaking unbelievable.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Hey guys, it's Scotty, Randy's producer here, and as many of you know, I grew up in Randy's house. You know, eating her food, watching her TV, and like most kids, ignorantly not following her advice. And one of her biggest pieces of advice was, never take a job in radio, because the big companies that run radio, they suck. Well, I didn't listen and ended up working in radio, and as always, Randy was right, they sucked. But I'm here now, and I can tell you that it takes a lot of chutzpah to break away from the big companies and start your own show. But you know what else it takes? Your support. We are independent media, so the only financial backers we have are you, the best listeners in the world. And we can't do it without you. So please, go to randyrhodes.com and support the show, buy a stinking podcast, donate some money, and keep us going.
Hey, I need to tell you something about Herky Jerky, because over the past year, you've been asking me to ask Jason from Herky Jerky if they will ever produce a turkey jerky. Well, I'm proud to tell you that he says absolutely yes. And not only does he have it now, it's absolutely spectacular. Let me start with the taste. It is extremely soft and slightly sweet, and it's bite-sized pieces that taste just like the homemade oven-roasted turkey that you have on Thanksgiving. It's made from turkeys raised without added hormones and just the right amount of salt, natural smoke flavoring, and spices that will make your taste buds go wild. And you asked for healthy. Well, Herky Jerky Turkey Jerky has no nitrates, preservatives, MSG, or artificial ingredients, absolutely zero fat, and packs a whopping 11 grams of protein per serving, and very low in cholesterol. Quite simply, I think this is one of the healthiest and best tasting high protein snacks you can get. And for the whole month of November, $5 off any turkey jerky pack you desire. $5 off, just use promo code TURKEY. They don't sell the little dinky bags that you get at the gas station. They're 14-ounce zip-sealed packs, and they're meant to last. Herky Jerky, making quality jerky and meat snacks for almost 25 years. Gotta tell you, I believe this is as good as anything I've ever tasted and the best thing they've ever produced. Try some today, herkyjerky.com.
All things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
She was at church, just like any other Sunday. Out of nowhere, shots started coming through the windows. Windows broke out, shots were flying. Then the shooter came in through the front doors. And the Sunday school teacher sitting next to her yelled, "Get on the floor." So she got on the floor. A lady sitting to her left also got on the floor. The Sunday school teacher left, and she doesn't know what happened to him. The shooter came into the church and started shooting everyone, and people were running out of the church, and she thinks he was shooting them as they were leaving. She doesn't know how many people were actually able to get away. She does know that after people stopped running out of the church, he started walking around the church, going up and down the aisle, shooting everybody that was laying on the ground. And she said he walked up and down the aisles quite a few times and made his way around the church, and eventually ended up where she was, which is on the very back pew, and started shooting the lady next to her multiple times. And then she was pretty certain she was next and her life was about to end. Then somebody with a gun showed up at the front of the church, caught the shooter's attention, and he left, and that was the end of the ordeal.
I mean, that...
She stayed on the ground the whole time, never saw him, just saw his shoes or his boots as he walked around the church, and got a glimpse of him being completely dressed in black.
Jesus. Moses. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So here is this guy's record. Okay, the guy is in the Air Force. He's threatening to kill his superiors. He's smuggling weapons onto the Air Force base. You ever wonder why, like the military is unarmed in their, on their bases and stuff? Yeah, because more guns means more death. That's why. So they had this guy who obviously had issues. I mean, bad ones, right? And they put him in a behavioral place in New Mexico, awaiting for his court-martial. He escapes from this place. Everybody knows that he's pled guilty already to, first of all, he literally broke his child's skull. Okay, he literally did that, and he was abusive to animals, which is another indication of a violent personality disorder. He had a wife before this one, and they got divorced because he was violent towards her. This wife that he was married to currently, although they're estranged, he actually, pulled a gun on her. And she attends the church, and everybody's pretending that they don't know what the motive is. This is domestic violence, people, and I can't even tell you how many times domestic violence is a precursor to something like this. In fact, I compiled a few episodes for you. Okay, 5 years before this shooter uses this semi-automatic to kill 26, children. The youngest was like, what, 18 months? A baby! And, people up to 72 years old, elderly, frail people, you know what I mean? Some of them said, or one woman at least said, that she didn't feel herself being shot because of the pain meds she's on. So there's a plus to being on pain meds. Get shot, you won't feel it. But anyway, he was court-martialed on charges of assaulting his wife, fracturing his infant stepson's skull. He also had been threatening his superior officers. I don't see that charge mentioned anywhere. Smuggling guns onto the Air Force Base, escaping from a behavioral center, pending court-martial. Don't see that mentioned anywhere. The Air Force, how did Heather Wilson, do you remember Heather Wilson? She was, a representative from New Mexico? How did she become the Secretary of the Air Force?
What happened in Texas was absolutely awful, and I think all of us on Sunday just were heartbroken. But we have initiated a review in the Air Force to find out why his fingerprint records were not transmitted to the database, and we'll find out why.
Do you know if this is a broader problem? Is this a more institutional problem? Is this more than one case where this happened?
We don't know, but we are checking all of the Air Force databases, and there are several of them, to find out and confirm that all court-martial convictions for these kinds of offenses have been reported in the civilian database.
We have to do with the Army and Navy and all of the branches of the Armed Services. You would think. Is there any reason to think that they don't do it either, or that things are missed there as well? Or
the Defense Department Inspector General is also going to be looking across the department to make sure that everything is checked and that all procedures are clarified. We'll actually be doing a stand down in the middle of the month to do complete training of the officers responsible for this.
Yeah.
Have you thought about whether the Air Force will have to accept some form of liability from the families as a result of this?
No, I'm more interested in responsibility.
Right.
And we've taken responsibility, and we're going to find out what happened and fix it.
Holy crap, man. I don't, okay, so domestic violence. All right. So this is what he's done. Now, he's only being court-martialed for domestic violence. He's only being court-martialed for beating up his wife and fracturing his stepson's skull. That's what he was. But apparently, he had stalked multiple ex-girlfriends, including one girlfriend that he dated when he was 18 years old and she was 13. And then in a press conference on November 6th, officials said the shooting was considered likely related to a domestic situation. You think? Las Vegas shooter, right? This guy, he picks up 58 people, wounds, injures like 500 more. Don't hear anything about it. It's too soon, Too soon. I mean, we have one of these, we've had two of the deadliest in just the last 35 days. So when do we talk about this? I say right now. So that guy was known for verbally abusing his girlfriend, right? I mean, people said he treated her like crap and he would tell her to shut up at the Starbucks and all that. Okay, the Nashville church shooting. Anybody remember the Nashville church shooting in September where one woman was murdered and 8 other people were killed? Yeah, that shooter, his girlfriend had twice reported him for domestic violence. San Bernardino. The man that entered the classroom in San Bernardino in the elementary school and used a revolver to kill his estranged wife, Karen Smith, and her 8-year-old student, Jonathan Martinez, injure another child and terrorize a community before killing himself. Yeah, remember, he shot his wife. Sort of domestic, isn't it? Yeah. And then the neo-Nazi who drove the car into the protesters in Charlottesville and killed Heather Heyer and 19 others who were wounded in Charlottesville, he had reportedly abused his disabled mother. And then years before a shooter opened fire on the ball game and, shot Steve Scalise in the hip, he was arrested for punching his foster daughter's friend in the face, remember? And firing a shotgun at her boyfriend. A year before, the shooter in January murdered 5 people and injured 45 others at the Fort Lauderdale airport. He was charged with physically assaulting his girlfriend before the perpetrator of the now second deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history murdered 49 people and 58 others at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. His ex-wife told media that he had beaten her. He had confiscated her paychecks. He had isolated her in her own home. See a pattern here yet? Okay. Before, a shooter killed 3 people and injured 9 others outside the Planned Parenthood clinic in Colorado Springs, Colorado in November of 2015. He'd been reported by multiple ex-partners for domestic abuse. He was also arrested for sexual assault. The man who opened fire at the movie theater in Lafayette, Louisiana in July 2015, murdering 2 women, injuring 8 others. He'd been reported for domestic violence 7 years earlier. In 2008, his family sought a protective order against him after he'd made threatening statements aimed at his own daughter, his wife, and other family members. And then before killing 6 people and injuring 7 others in a stabbing shooting spree in Isle Vista, California in 2014, the perpetrator had created a manifesto detailing his hatred of and violent thoughts toward women, and had previously harassed or attacked women, had attacked his own roommates, had attacked couples. Before he committed these random shootings, he stabbed and killed 2 of his roommates and a friend. Then the shooter who killed 20 children. See, this is when the gun debate ended. This is really when it ended. Sandy Hook. When America said you could kill 20 toddlers, 20 in elementary school 6-year-olds, 20 little teeny tiny kids. When America said that was okay, that was the end of the gun debate. Hope you know that. But that shooter who killed 20 kids and 6 adults in Newtown in 2012, he had first shot and killed his mother in the home that they shared. Everybody forgets that. And he had reportedly threatened his mother many times prior to the shooting. And subsequent investigations suggest he had a very disturbing thought pattern about children, let's say, and that he had abusive thoughts about children. And then the perpetrator of the now 3rd deadliest mass shooting in U.S. modern history, who murdered 32 at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia. Now, we could have had a debate back then, but, we had a Republican president then, too. He had been reported previously for stalking and harassing a couple of women also. Now, here's an interesting little factoid. Women living in the United States, this is a study that was published in 2016. About 4.5 million women have had an intimate partner threaten them with a gun. 1 million women have been shot or shot at by an intimate partner. And I wonder if you remember that poor woman who's finally out of jail here in Florida, whose intimate partner came to her house and she had the audacity to shoot at the ceiling, to scare him off. She went to jail for firing a firearm with an infant in the house, with a baby in the house. So don't defend yourselves, women. I mean, you can't defend yourselves because men run the roost. Men make the laws. Men fail to report this or that. It's unbelievable. So 760 Americans were killed by guns every single year in this country by their spouse, by their ex-spouse, or by somebody they were dating. Every year. There's nothing that the GOP could do. We can't do anything because it's it's a mental health issue. It's not an issue of guns. It's just this is not right.
You've talked about wanting to put extreme vetting on people trying to come into the United States, but I wonder if you would consider extreme vetting for people trying to buy a gun.
Trying to what?
Buy a gun.
A gun. Well, You know, you're bringing up a situation that probably shouldn't be discussed too much right now. We could let a little time go by, but it's okay if you feel that that's an appropriate question, even though we're the heart of South Korea. I will certainly answer your question.
Your country is falling apart over here.
If you did what you're suggesting, there would have been no difference 3 days ago, and you might not have had that very brave person who happened to have a gun or a rifle in.
Okay. So we all need vigilante. What, there's no police officers that you could call in Sutherland Springs, Texas? I find that very hard to believe. Nobody knows how to dial 911 anymore. You need people, and the guy who did do this was amazingly frightened, and he is weeping because he knew he was killing he thought he was killing somebody. Obviously, the shooter killed himself. He shot himself in the head. That's how he died. But you can't call 911 anymore. Everybody's got to have, you know, a neighbor run barefoot in the street with a rifle and shoot. Honestly, what is wrong with these people? The only way that you're going to prevent anybody from hurting you is by having a neighbor or having a... What's wrong with calling the freaking police? You know, we give them like freaking grenade launchers now and M4s and semi-automatic weapons, and practically they got grenade launchers. Oh, don't call them. Call your neighbor. Oh, this is so sad. This is such misrepresentation. All to protect the money.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Hey everybody, it's Brett from the Randi Rhodes Show. Independent media is the future, and Randi's leading the way. And it's ironic, the more freedom she gained, the more expensive it got. It's crucial now, more than ever, to keep this show pure and free of corporate influence so Randi can tell the hard truths. The first step to change is an unbiased media, and for that, we need your help. So please, go to RandiRhodes.com/support and subscribe, you bastards.
Yeah, you could buy tile at a chain store if you wanted to. You could wait for a kid to try and answer your questions about what's this made of, or how do I install it, or what's in stock. But what if you wanted serious craftsmanship? What if you wanted custom design, handmade, to order from your imagination, or an inspiration photo that you love? Probably you think you can't anymore, but I did. When it was time to shop tile, I came across a family-owned business that still handcrafts each and every individual tile, matching your colors, your inspiration, your design. Tempest Tile Works. They're based in Portland, Oregon, and they still handcraft the most magnificent tile. Let them match to your fabrics or to your countertops or to anything you can envision for your bath or kitchen. Teeny tiny tiles to oversized, their art or yours. It's all doable, it's all affordable, and it's all individually made just for your project. Visit Tempest Tile Works and look at their amazing gallery of designs and styles, and give up the chain stores. Tempest Tile Works, custom made. TempestTileWorks.com.
This is the voice of the resistance. You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network.
Dear fellow progressive, these are the times that try men's souls. It is not the first time our country has been in peril, and it won't be the last. It is, however, a unique threat from within, one the precise likes of which we have never seen before. It is our modern media mix that has enabled an incurious, unserious, pathological liar and textbook narcissist to accede to the highest office in the land. His is a world of make-believe, one that could only have been concocted by a student of reality TV. At least we know he studied something. The imagined slights, the trumped-up, pun intended, feuds, the insulting nicknames, the Twitter diarrhea, it is all of a piece. Entertaining, funny even in another context, but when you're busy blowing up the country's longest-running foreign relationships, devastating the environment, threatening trade wars, and embracing all the wrong actors, it's really hard to find the humor. At Progressive Voices, we take holding the powerful accountable as our most serious mission, and there is nothing more important to us today than making sure the PV audience is informed with unbiased information, and that more and more people become part of our audience, and therefore are better informed than they can be by relying solely on the mainstream media, which, in so many ways, has shrunk from its duty as the watchdog of democracy. It is our sincere hope that you will help us in this important mission at this most critical hour. Go to ProgressiveVoices.com and make your donation today. Please give whatever you can. Remember, we are a tax-exempt 501c3, meaning that your donations are fully tax-deductible. Thanks for supporting the Progressive Voices Network.
Hi, it's Randi Rhodes. Listen to me on the PV live stream or on demand or both on the PV app. Just go to progressivevoices.com or download the Progressive Voices app.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
It is Election Day in the state of Virginia, the most closely watched race of this year. Ralph Northam, physician, VMI graduate, Democrat. At this hour, 58% reporting. He is at 51%. Ed Gillespie, former Republican Party head, he is at 48%. Numerically, fairly close, but Northam in the lead at this hour. Of course, we're going to bring you the results as we get them minute by minute. We've got breaking news here. Okay, we are now reporting that Ralph Northam has won the Virginia governor's race. Ralph Northam, the Democrat, beating Ed Gillespie. With 58% in, we are projecting that he is the winner tonight.
Ow! They didn't want to report that. It really, really did not want to do that. And in fact, they stopped doing it after, Ed Gillespie lost last night by 9 points. 9 points he lost by. Oh, they did not. You want to hear Sean Hannity? Oh, this is hysterical. Okay, let me just tell you. That sad Tucker Carlson, he had to announce because it happened in real time, and they put the graphic up on the screen and left him no choice but to report the loser was his guy. The loser was a former chairman of the RNC, a former Bush guy, counselor to George W. Bush, a former lobbyist on case. This is who they ran. Okay, this is who they ran, and of course they lost. Well, now, what's really interesting about Ed Gillespie is the ads he ran. And how disgustingly Trumpian they were, saying that, he even called Ed Northam, who was his Democratic challenger, they called him a pedophile. The man is he's a graduate of VMI. He was an army doctor for 10 years, for 8 years. And he's a pediatrician on top. And they said he was a pedophile. I mean, that's how dirty this campaign got. So I'll play you the ads. But first, I want to draw your attention to this. If you watch Fox News, which I know most of you don't, but some of you do, which is really sick and twisted. Today, we're going to express to you why you should never watch that crap and show you what fake news actually is. But I just want you to know that if you watched Fox News last night, you did not know there was an election. I mean, you would have had no clue. You know why? Fox News went 100 minutes after that was announced. They went 100 minutes without mentioning what was happening outside of Sean Hannity's protective bubble. Literally, Sean Hannity, I swear to God, Sean Hannity covered this election with, I swear to you, count them yourselves, everybody, 14 words. 14.
Thanks, Tucker. By the way, those results in Virginia, New Jersey, New York, by the way, not states Donald Trump won.
That was it. That was the election coverage on Sean Hannity's show last night. That was it. New Jersey was in the hands of one Chris Christie, who was part of the Trump campaign. You know, remember him from the hostage video? For those of you who don't recall who Chris Christie, remember, the proof of life video where he was just standing there, like listening to Donald Trump talk, going, "What am I? Oh my God! Wow! Am I really? Wow!" So Chris Christie was replaced last night with a Democrat. Sean Hannity, just 14 words, and Laura Ingraham, little Lala. She went, I swear her show went on she's on at 10 o'clock for those of you who don't follow the Breitbart media lineup that has, Fox News was always bad. It was always disinformation. Now it's flat out misinformation and avoidance of information and all this stuff. But it's amazing. So Lala, she's now new in the lineup. Lala went 50 minutes into her show without mentioning that there were elections last night. And there were lots of elections last night. It was like watching East German TV. 50 minutes into her show. Now, Tucker, you saw sad Tucker have to announce because they put the graphic up live. And then Sean and the handoff to Tucker, from Tucker, devoted 14 whole words. And Lala didn't mention anything about elections. And there were elections in New Jersey. There was an election in New York where they sit. They had an election for mayor in New York, in Trump's hometown. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Okay, Bill de Blasio is, a very, very liberal Democrat, and he won handily last night. It was easy. It was a cakewalk. And this is Trump's hometown. Can you imagine if Bill de Blasio had lost in Trump's hometown last night? I mean, oh, come on. So she waits 50 minutes, and this was the entirety of her coverage.
And Ed Gillespie tried to do this dance that I'm not going to campaign with Trump, but he'll tweet for me and he'll do a last-minute robocall. I think in the end that came off as desperate. And what if Gillespie had campaigned on preserving our history respectfully, Virginia first, law and order. Simple.
Okay, let's look at Ed Gillespie's ads, because he did do Southern Heritage right out of the Trump playbook, and he did do Law and Order. I don't know why. And Trump did campaign for Ed Gillespie. He did make robocalls for Ed Gillespie. He was tweeting like crazy to vote for Ed Gillespie on his 45 million Twitter followers or whatever. How could he? I mean, I don't even understand. How do you have 25 million Twitter if there's only 7 million people on Twitter? Okay, let's just review Ed Gillespie's fabulous campaign.
For governor, there's a clear choice. Ralph Northam wants to take down Virginia's Civil War monuments.
Yes.
I will do everything that I can to remove the statues at the state level.
Ralph Northam will take our statues down. Ed Gillespie will preserve them.
I'm for keeping them up, and he's for taking them down. And that's a big difference in November.
On November 7th, vote Ed Gillespie for governor.
I'm Ed Gillespie, candidate for governor, and I sponsored this ad.
The people of Virginia were supposed to vote statuary. They were supposed to vote on statuary and preserving the Southern heritage. And of course, that was right out of the Trump playbook after Charlottesville. All right, so that was that. And then here's his Law and Order ad.
Last year, Terry McAuliffe and Ralph Northam instituted the automatic restoration of rights for violent felons and sex offenders, making it easier for them to obtain firearms and allowing them to serve on juries. One of these felons, John Bowen, had his rights restored 2 months after being found with one of the largest child pornography collections in Virginia's history. 43 prosecutors, Republicans, Democrats, and independents opposed Ralph Northam's reckless policy. Now, Virginia law enforcement has endorsed Ed Gillespie for governor.
Virginians who have paid their debt to society and are living an honest life should have their rights restored. But Ralph Northam's policy of automatic restoration of rights for unrepentant, unreformed, violent criminals is wrong. As governor, I'll be both compassionate and protecting of Virginia families. I'm Ed Gillespie, candidate for governor, and I sponsored this ad.
And you lost. And so Ralph Northam's ad.
Ed Gillespie's false attacks. Independent press says they're false, fear-mongering, absurd. Ralph Northam went to VMI and was an Army doctor for 8 years. In Richmond, Dr. Northam helped pass longer sentences for gang members and mandatory life sentences for violent sexual predators.
I'm Ralph Northam, candidate for governor, and I sponsored this ad because I'm a pediatrician. And for Ed Gillespie to say I would tolerate anyone hurting a child is despicable.
It was despicable. It was very Trumpian. And they're sitting there looking there. She goes, they should have run on Southern heritage and law and order. That's exactly what.
And Ed Gillespie tried to do this dance that I'm not going to campaign with Trump, but he'll tweet for me and he'll do a last-minute robocall. I think in the end that came off as desperate. And what if Gillespie had campaigned on preserving our history respectfully, Virginia first, law and order. Simple.
That's exactly what he did. But it's exactly what he did. They followed this ridiculous Trump playbook and it failed. And here is why it failed. Here's the exit polls, just so you understand what's going on in this country. And this is pretty much great news, okay? And today is, a year. It's a year to the day that we went to the polls and some morons picked Donald Trump for the presidency. And now they're sorry. This is what last night's election was. And we'll go through some of these results because they're amazing. It's really incredible. You've got Phil Murphy elected governor of New Jersey, replacing the fabulous and wonderful Chris Christie. Chris Christie got into it last night with some of the voters. He just won't stop fighting with people. I mean, he's just like, I don't know what Chris's problem is. He's just like Trump. They're just such bullies. They get in people's faces. They scream. They yell. They call people idiots and stupid. And, and Chris Christie, I swear to God, had at one point a 70% approval rating in New Jersey. And his second term, he won so easily. That's why they started talking about Chris Christie as presidential material. Okay? And then we elected Trump. And now everybody's like, oh, snap. This is bizarro world we're in. So the exit polls bear that out last night. Trump's approval rating among Virginia voters was 42%. Disapproval was 58%, almost 60%. And even more importantly, half of Virginians said Trump was a major factor in their vote last night. And they said that they wanted to send a signal of opposition to President Trump. And you look at some of these Virginia counties, Loudoun County in Virginia, Bob McDonnell, the Republican, remember Bob McDonnell, used campaign money to pay for his daughter's wedding and had to pay it back and was thrown out and just, humiliated on the public. Well, Bob McDonnell won Loudoun County by 15,000 votes. 15,000 votes. And last night, Ralph Northam won that same county by 20,000 votes. Something is afoot in Loudoun County. You understand that? Yeah, something, it's just stunning. And then there's this other little county that you should pay attention to. It's called Chesterfield, and it includes the city of Richmond. It is the ancestral home of country club Republicans. It is the Old Dominion. Okay, yeah, Howard's shaking his head because, Howard lived in D.C. in this area for 37 years. I think he knows, that this is all true. This is where the business conservatives dominate. This is where they club. This is where they golf. This is where they, do all the Chamber of Commerce-y stuff. This is where they organize their associations for business. Okay, it is gentility. It is the Old Dominion, the Old South. It is, Southern gentlemen, Southern money. Hillary Clinton, for example, lost Chesterfield County by 4,000 votes in 2016. That was a big improvement over Barack Obama, who lost it by about 16,000 votes. Yeah, Northam won last night by about 1,000 votes. So something's afoot. And this is why it's like watching East German TV. This is what Fox News is not there to give you news or to inform. They're to placate the audience and to say, don't worry, everything's okay. You can still worship the racist. You can still applaud when you see these commercials. Oh, and another thing Ed Gillespie ran commercials about. Sanctuary cities, saying that Ed Northam was for sanctuary and would preserve. There are no sanctuary cities in Virginia. I mean, this whole campaign was so freaky and so absurd and fraudulent. And the voters in Virginia had it. And that is why these very Southern, very conservative, very old line Southern money counties said, no, we want to send a message that this is just bullcrap. And this has got it. And that's why Fox News, I swear to God, 14 words he said.
Thanks, Tucker. By the way, those results in Virginia, New Jersey, New York, by the way, not states Donald Trump won.
Wait a minute, Sean. Are you saying Donald Trump didn't win his home state? Because I remember when Al Gore lost Tennessee. Oh, my God, I heard about that for years. Well, it was Al Gore. He couldn't even win his home state of Tennessee. Why? Because we had a rigged election. We had an election that was decided by the U.S. Supreme Court, which, according to our Constitution, has no say in how the state chooses its electors, federalism being what it is and all. But for years, I had to listen to how Al Gore lost Tennessee. Donald Trump lost his home state. And they elected one of the most liberal mayors New York has ever had, easily last night. And then there's a really, really great election in Virginia, a very local for the state. Oh, by the way, the state legislature in Virginia is practically in Democratic hands, and New Jersey is. Oh.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Hey guys, it's Scotty, Randi's producer here, and as many of you know, I grew up in Randi's house. You know, eating her food, watching her TV, and like most kids, ignorantly not following her advice. And one of her biggest pieces of advice was, never take a job in radio, because the big companies that run radio, they suck. Well, I didn't listen and ended up working in radio, and as always, Randi was right, they sucked. But I'm here now, and I can tell you that it takes a lot of chutzpah to break away from the big companies and start your own show. But you know what else it takes? Your support. We are independent media, so the only financial backers we have are you, the best listeners in the world. And we can't do it without you. So please, go to RandiRhodes.com and support the show, buy a stinking podcast, donate some money, and keep us going.
Hey, I need to tell you something about Herky Jerky, because over the past year, you've been asking me to ask Jason from Herky Jerky if they will ever produce a turkey jerky. Well, I'm proud to tell you that he says absolutely yes. And not only does he have it now, it's absolutely spectacular. Let me start with the taste. It is extremely soft and slightly sweet, and it's bite-sized pieces that taste just like the homemade oven-roasted turkey that you have on Thanksgiving. It's made from turkeys raised without added hormones and just the right amount of salt, natural smoke flavoring, and spices that will make your taste buds go wild. And you asked for healthy. Well, Herky Jerky Turkey Jerky has no nitrates, preservatives, MSG, or artificial ingredients, absolutely zero fat, and packs a whopping 11 grams of protein per serving, and very low in cholesterol. Quite simply, I think this is one of the healthiest and best tasting high protein snacks you can get. And for the whole month of November, $5 off any turkey jerky pack you desire. $5 off, just use promo code TURKEY. They don't sell the little dinky bags that you get at the gas station. They're 14-ounce zip-sealed packs, and they're meant to last. Herky Jerky, making quality jerky and meat snacks for almost 25 years. Gotta tell you, I believe this is as good as anything I've ever tasted and the best thing they've ever produced. Try some today, herkyjerky.com.
This is Sam from Indivisible. Be part of the resistance. Listen to the Indivisible podcast when you want, on demand at progressivevoices.com or on the PV app. Download the PV app now in the app and Android stores.
Take action and hold Congress accountable. This is Ezra Levin on the Progressive Voices Network, asking you to join the millions who decided to become part of the movement to resist Trump's agenda. Check out indivisibleguide.com to start resisting on your home turf. Keep listening for more ways you can get involved.
Be part of the resistance. Make sure you listen to this week's new Indivisible podcast, available on demand at progressivevoices.com or on the PV app.
This is the voice of the resistance. You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Did I say on topic? Are you stupid? On topic. On topic. Next question. Good. Thank you all very much, and I'm sorry for the idiot over there.
Let me tell you something. After you graduate from law school, you conduct yourself like that in a courtroom, your rear end's going to get thrown in jail, idiot.
I was wondering why you think it's fair to be cutting school funding to public schools.
What's her name? Hey, Gail, you know what? First off, it's none of your business. I don't ask you where you send your kids to school. Don't bother me about where I send mine. Appreciate that. Well, you know what? Then you don't have to do it. So if you'd like to conduct a respectful conversation, I'm happy to do it. If you don't, please go and sit down, and I'll answer the next question. What's your choice? I worked the cones, actually, Matt. Unbeknownst to everybody, I was actually the guy out there. I was in overalls and a hat, so I wasn't. But I actually was the guy working the cones out there.
Bye-bye, dickhead. Bye-bye. So long, sucker. Oh, is he nasty. Oh, my God. The Republican governor of New Jersey will be replaced by the Democrat Phil Murphy, everybody. Phil Murphy, yes. Easily defeated his Republican counterpart. Easily, 56-43. 56 to 43. That's a 13-point victory. But here's a really great story. I think this is like such a really good one. In Virginia, there was a 13-term Republican incumbent who was defeated last night by a newcomer, a Democrat. A 13-term Republican incumbent, okay? This man, his name was Robert Marshall. Robert Marshall, 13 terms. He was defeated by Democrat Danica Roem, which is a beautiful story in and of itself. However, Danica Roem will be the first open transgendered person to ever serve in the United States State House. Let me tell you something about Danica Roem. Danica Roem used to be a journalist. Danica Roem was a journalist. Danica Roem is only 33 years old, and she was willing and ready to debate this 13-term GOP incumbent, except Robert Marshall, the 13-term incumbent, wouldn't stand on a stage with her, and in fact wouldn't use the correct pronouns to refer to her. Kept calling him, and even though Danica is a woman, and refused to debate her, and then had the audacity to tell everybody and bill himself and campaign as Virginia's chief homophobe. She won last night. She won. And you know how she did it? She went out there and she knocked on 75,000 doors in a district with 52,000 registered voters. 75,000 knocks on the door she did. And all kinds of public appearances, and tried to debate this man who would not show up for a debate, and was saying he was very proud that he was the chief homophobe in Virginia, and that he would not call Danica she, would not, dignify her. It's just, I think this is over. I really think these days, have, played at least in Virginia, okay? And I got to tell you, Maine went out to vote last night. Now, Maine is under the control of a uber Republican, which every time I go to Maine, and every time I talk to my friends in Maine, and every time I do travel to Maine a lot because, Howard's mother lives in Maine and his brother lives in Maine, my sister-in-law. We have like a lot of family in Maine, and I love Maine, and it's beautiful. And when it's really super hot here, there's no place better than Maine. And you go up there and you go, how do you have Paul LePage as your governor? And they all go, I don't know. We don't know. Paul LePage had vetoed the expansion of Medicaid. I can't tell you how many times, okay? I mean, just over and over and over again. So they put it on the ballot in Maine last night. Maine resoundingly voted to expand Medicaid to all the people of Maine, which is a difficult sale because that means that Maine is willing to raise their taxes a little bit in order to cover everybody who can't afford to be covered with private health insurance, whether it's sold on the exchange with a subsidy or not. And obviously they don't, for people who don't have an employer or get any health insurance through their employer. The only thing left is Medicaid. And so LePage, he was so determined not to expand Medicaid in that state that they put it on the ballot. And last night, they voted to implement the Medicaid expansion, which is a direct slap in the face to Trump's repeal Obamacare efforts, and also in response to their heroin problem, their fentanyl problem, their prescription drug pill problem, because people who are addicted typically don't have the ability to pay for their own rehab and stuff like that. And so now Paula Page will have absolutely no choice but to implement it. It's just so easy. You just can't not do it. Yes, once a state votes to participate in Medicaid, then the governor is legally bound to comply. And they tried to call him. The Washington Post tried to call LePage last night for a comment, and he wouldn't answer their phone call. So that was good. The only really big, disappointment, I must say, is in Ohio, where people were completely and utterly bamboozled and confused by $75 million in ads on the TV that Big Pharma paid for. Oh yeah, there was a issue on the ballot last night in Ohio, issue 2, and it said what issue 2 was about was negotiating the price of drugs for Medicaid and Medicare, and Ohioans voted not to negotiate the price of prescription drugs. $75 million was spent just in one state in Ohio against this, because Big Pharma doesn't want their prices lowered. They just don't. They certainly don't want anybody to negotiate with them for lower drug prices on medicine. And the problem was that they kept advertising that nobody could tell you how much it would lower your drug costs. Nobody could tell you. Nobody could tell you. And the reason why is because the VA does negotiate the cost of drugs, but the VA can't share the prices. They're prohibited by law from telling Ohioans and anybody else what they pay for drugs. And so the VA had a muzzle on them, and they couldn't tell you how much lower the drug costs are for VA participants versus Medicare, Medicaid participants. And so the Big Pharma spent $75 million going, they can't tell you because it's not going to help you. And that's just not true. But 79% of Ohioans voted against the ability to pay less for drugs. I swear to God. They did vote for a Bill of Rights for crime victims. That was good, because nobody was, lobbying against a Bill of Rights for crime victims. But they did. I swear to God, the vote was 79 to 20% in Ohio. 79 to 20% people voted no on issue 2. And issue 2 was simply the ability for your governor, for Medicare, for Medicaid to negotiate down the cost of drug prices. That's what $75 million will buy you in Ohio. It's just those are the election results. Fox News literally Sean Hannity spent 14 words covering all of this. Lala didn't cover it until 10 minutes before her show ended. And Tucker was ready for Prozac at the end of his show when the election results came in, and they lost. Virginia. And by the way, New Jersey, they also voted straight Democratic Party down the ticket. And so the New Jersey legislature will be in Republican hands. That's a beauty. Now, the next election, seriously, the next big one is for senator and everybody. It's in Alabama. It's in Alabama. It's on December 12th. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, we can never, Democrats can't, we shouldn't even try, don't. You would be incorrect. Now, I'll admit, the last time that Alabama voted for a Republican, for a Democrat to go to the U.S. Senate was, 1978. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because that Democrat was Richard Shelby. And when the South went all racist and stuff, then Richard Shelby became a Republican. And so Richard Shelby has been a Republican taking up that Alabama seat since he switched parties. But the reason why Alabama switched was because of white fright and white flight from the party. And so I got a funny feeling that it's time for them to change again. And just the idea that in my lifetime they could change from Democrat to Republican means they could also change from Republican to Democrat. Now, who is running there? The twice removed from the Alabama Supreme Court disgraced, disgusting Justice Roy Moore. Roy Moore, who just won this primary over Luther Strange, Trump's pick, by the way. Roy Moore, who won the Republican primary, who won the right to be the Republican nominee for the Senate seat, is, literally a disgraced Supreme Court justice who was removed twice from the Alabama Supreme Court, has said out loud that gay sex should be a crime, that Muslims should not be allowed to serve in Congress, that there are Christian communities in Illinois that are forcibly subjected to live under Sharia law, right? He is running against a former U.S. Attorney, Doug Jones. Doug Jones prosecuted the Ku Klux Klan, and after all those many years, the two Klan members who were responsible for killing the 4 girls in the 16th Street Baptist Church. Killings in a church? Why? Yes, that used to be like, something that America would react to. Not anymore. But yes, he is the U.S. attorney who won the long, belated conviction. He never gave up on finding these Klan members. And he was able to prosecute them. And he also prosecuted domestic terrorist Eric Rudolph, also a white supremacist. Well, Roy Moore is the exact kind of person who promotes this kind of Eric Rudolph ideology, who promotes this kind of racist, hey, let's set a bomb off in the 16th Street Baptist Church kind of ideology. Now, if Doug Jones can't win against Roy Moore because it's Alabama, then at least it should not be a cakewalk for Roy Moore. We should put up a fight in Alabama. We should absolutely get active in Alabama. Listen, a lot of these elections last night were the result of our revolution, Indivisible, the Women's March. Women were the people who really showed up last night in Virginia. It's a lot of women, and it was a lot of, people, Democrats who wanted to send a message, and Republicans who are disenchanted with Donald Trump. Only 68% of America thinks that Donald Trump is respected on the world stage, and he only has a 37% approval rating here in America. This is a good time to actually put up a fight in the Deep South and see if we can't, win some hearts and minds and end this racist, anti-religious, anti-every other person kind of, a thing. If Roy Moore is going to win, then at least make Roy Moore fight us for that seat. And, this is the problem that the Democrats will have coming, in the next couple of weeks. I mean, what is today? Today's November. Yeah, today's election day last year, okay? It's a year to the day. How many Trump voters said, I'll give him a year, and if he doesn't produce the result, right? Well, it's a year, and he hasn't produced. And people are sending a message to him that they're really pissed. By the way, that tax bill, it ain't going to be. It's not. The Senate is not voting on. They refused the House bill because the CBO scored it today, and it's way too expensive to get through reconciliation. I told you the number was 1.5 trillion to the deficit. That's what they were allowed to add. Well, it scored higher than that. It was like $1.78 trillion, and so they can't do it through reconciliation. So they're postponing it. I'm telling you, there is nothing they can get done, and it's a year to the day, and people are pissed.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Hey everybody, it's Brett from the Randi Rhodes Show. Independent media is the future, and Randi's leading the way. And it's ironic, the more freedom she gained, the more expensive it got. It's crucial now, more than ever, to keep this show pure and free of corporate influence so Randi can tell the hard truths. The first step to change is an unbiased media, and for that, we need your help. So please, go to RandiRhodes.com/support and subscribe, you bastards.
Yeah, you could buy tile at a chain store if you wanted to. You could wait for a kid to try and answer your questions about what's this made of, or how do I install it, or what's in stock. But what if you wanted serious craftsmanship? What if you wanted custom design, handmade, to order from your imagination, or an inspiration photo that you love? Probably you think you can't anymore, but I did. When it was time to shop tile, I came across a family-owned business that still handcrafts each and every individual tile, matching your colors, your inspiration, your design. Tempest Tile Works. They're based in Portland, Oregon, and they still handcraft the most magnificent tile. Let them match to your fabrics or to your countertops or to anything you can envision for your bath or kitchen. Teeny tiny tiles to oversized, their art or yours. It's all doable, it's all affordable, and it's all individually made just for your project. Visit Tempest Tile Works and look at their amazing gallery of designs and styles, and give up the chain stores. Tempest Tile Works, custom made. TempestTileWorks.com.
You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network, and here's a clip from Tara Buster with comedian Tara Devlin from RDTDaily.com.
Trump Jr., who I hate, I really do. I should be a better person. I should be more evolved, but I don't like him. I don't like him because partly, look at their hobbies. Look at the hobbies of Trump's sons. Killing beautiful creatures? That's what you do as a hobby, you scumbag? You go and you shoot a lion, you shoot a zebra, you shoot a creature that's walking around. I mean, everything has to die. There is a cycle, a circle of life. They don't get to get killed by, let's say, some other creature that at least they are providing sustenance. They get to be killed by the worst human being on the planet who does nothing. So they die. It's like a snuff film for them. It's a waste. A wasted life to soothe the prurient instincts of a sociopath. What kind of hobby is that? As a human species, I hope that we get to a point someday that we're like, no, we don't go trophy hunting. We go build habitat for humanity. This is Tara Devlin from RDTDaily.com. That was a clip from my show, Tara Buster. Join us for the live recording every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern at FYINation.com, or catch the replays starting Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Progressive Voices, or anytime on demand on the Progressive Voices app. Support the Progressive Voices Network and tell your friends. Remember, we stick together, we win.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
The reaction has been something to behold. I called these gentlemen, mostly gentlemen, because I thought that they might be interestingly certain that these allegations are false. But what I heard from them was that not only do they believe that the allegations are false, but they would continue, at least a couple of them, would continue to support Roy Moore even if the allegations were true. They explicitly told me that they would vote for a child molesting Republican over a Democrat. And so it's really something to hear, and I think it speaks to the level of partisanship on the Republican side of the ledger.
Wow. So that's where we left off, where the Alabama Republicans were saying that even if the allegations against Judge Roy Moore were true about the molestation of teenagers when he was in his 30s, they would still vote for him. And Roy Moore came out, swinging, on Friday, said that he was going to fundraise off of it. Monetizing pedophilia, that's got to be a new low, even for the GOP. Monetizing the pedophilia, that is just unbelievable. And he told his donors, quote, "Our nation is at a crossroads now, both spiritually and politically." All right, that much is true, everybody, but not in the way that Roy Moore thinks. No, it is unbelievable. And then in what was a friendly interview with Sean Hannity, Roy Moore said, "I don't remember dating any girl without the permission of her mother." That is his defense. He only preyed on naive girls with mothers who were even dumber than them. That's his defense. And, the most amazing thing is that I really believe that this story was, and everybody's going, well, why now? Why now? Why are all these women coming out now? Probably because this is the first time that anybody knocked on their door and asked them. Now, for the Republicans, the question might be who tipped off the Washington Post reporters, all three of them, who went down there for a different story and ended up working on this story, and then found 30 witnesses to these 4, not 3, not 2, Sean, but 4 women. And now today, 5. Oh, yes. 5 women. It's Molestation Monday, everybody. Molestation Monday. You know, you could say that Roy Moore is an embarrassment to Alabama, but, like I said on Friday, this is a story from Alabama. It's not a story in Alabama that concerns Alabama. They seem to be down with this, but check this out. This just happened just a few minutes ago.
Got into his car in the passenger seat.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was clipped. So this is, I thought this was the whole report. This is Beverly Young Nelson, who just came forward a few moments ago to say that Judge Roy Moore also not only molested her, but sort of kidnapped her and wouldn't let her out of his car. And ladies, he's a head pusher. Ew.
And he began driving. I thought he would get on the highway, but instead he drove to the back of the restaurant. I was not immediately alarmed, as there was an exit from the back of the restaurant to the street, and he could drive there to my house without getting on the highway. However, instead of driving to the street, he stopped the car. He stopped the car and he parked his car in between the dumpster and the back of the restaurant where there were no lights. The area was dark and it was deserted. I was alarmed and I immediately asked him what he was doing. Instead of answering my questions, Mr. Moore reached over and began groping me and putting his hands on my breast. I tried to open my car door to leave, but he reached over and he locked it so I could not get out. I tried fighting him off while yelling at him to stop. But instead of stopping, he began squeezing my neck, attempting to force my head onto his crotch.
No.
I continued to struggle. I was determined that I was not going to allow him to force me to have sex with him. I was terrified. He was also trying to pull my shirt off. I thought that he was going to rape me. I was twisting, and I was struggling, and I was begging him to stop. I had tears running down my face. At some point, he gave up. And he then looked at me and he told me, he said, "You're just a child." And he said, "I am the district attorney of Etowah County. And if you tell anyone about this, no one will ever believe you."
Oh, jeez.
He finally allowed me to open the door, and I either fell out or he pushed me out. I was on the ground as he pulled out of the parking area behind the restaurant. The passenger door was still open as he burned rubber, pulling away, leaving me laying there on this cold concrete in the dark. I got up and I tried to pull myself together as I was making my way to the front of the restaurant when my boyfriend arrived. It was late, it was dark, and I did not say anything to him as to what had occurred, as he had a very violent temper. And I was afraid that he would do something that would get him into trouble. When I got home, I went to my room, and the following morning, my neck was black and blue and purple. In the days following, I covered the bruising on my neck with makeup. I did not tell anyone about what had happened. I was scared. I felt that if I told anyone that Mr. Moore would do something to me or my family, and I decided to keep what happened to myself. The day after Mr. Moore assaulted me, I called the restaurant and I quit my job. I never went back there again. About 2 years later, I told my younger sister what Mr. Moore did to me. About 4 years ago, I told my mother finally what happened. Before I married my husband John, I told him what Mr. Moore had done to me. My husband and I supported Donald Trump for president. This has nothing whatsoever to do with the Republicans or the Democrats. It has everything to do with Mr. Moore's sexual assault when I was a teenager. I thought that I was Mr. Moore's only victim. I would probably have taken what Mr. Moore did to me to my grave had it not been for the courage of 4 other women that were willing to speak out about their experiences with Mr. Moore. Their courage has inspired me to overcome my fear. Mr. Moore attacked me when I was a child. I did nothing to deserve this sexual attack.
So that's 5 women now. That's five women now. But, you know, if you're from Alabama, that's how Jesus hooked up. That's how, isn't that how Joseph and Mary hooked up? Wasn't Mary, like, you know, underage and working in a restaurant, and then, God came and pulled up and picked her up and took her between a dumpster and the restaurant and then locked her door and became a head pusher? I mean, isn't that the same story? Isn't that the same story? It's the same, right? Because this is what everybody in Alabama is saying. I mean, listen to what these people said. This is Alabama Marion County GOP Chair David Hall. He said, I really don't see the relevance of it. He was 32. She was supposedly 14. She's not saying that anything happened other than they kissed, talking about this 14-year-old girl. 40 years ago. So, you know, and for this woman, it was also 40 years ago. But, you know, she did tell some people. And let's see, this is the other women that they're using to corroborate number one. One was 19, one was 17, one was 16. There's nothing wrong with a 30-year-old single man asking a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, or a 16-year-old out on a date. It's quite a date. What do you wear to a date like this? I'd say armor. And then Alabama Bibb County Republican Chairman Jerry Powell, he said, I would vote for Judge Moore because I wouldn't want to vote for Doug. I'm not saying I would support what he did, but if he did commit a sex crime, I would still vote for him. I have to vote for an accused pedophile because he has an R next to his name. GOP Chairman William Blocker says there is no option to support Doug Jones, the Democratic nominee. When you do that, you're supporting the entire Democrat Party. Alabama Mobile County GOP Chairman John Skipper said, it does not really surprise me. I think this is typical Democrat ploy to discredit Judge Moore, a sincere, honest, and trustworthy individual. Covington County GOP Chairman William Blocker said that's the typical background of profile of somebody they would be using for that, meaning that these girls all said that they were Republicans and that they had voted for Donald Trump for president. One explained that it wasn't forcible rape. He said, other than being with an underage person, he didn't really force himself, said Alabama Geneva County GOP Chairman Rivlev Steinbrenner. He said, I know that's bad enough, but I don't know. If he withdraws, it's 5 weeks to the election. That will concede it to a Democrat. He also said, if what those girls said about what Roy Moore did was true, he won't support him. But at the same time, he wanted to say it's not forcible rape. I just know that 14-year-olds don't make good decisions. And over the weekend, ex-colleagues of Roy Moore spoke to CNN saying, you know, it's common knowledge that he did this stuff.
A former co-worker who worked alongside Roy Moore in the late 70s and early 80s says that she believes these women. She was the deputy district attorney in Etowah County at the courthouse where Roy Moore was working. She worked alongside him, as I mentioned. Her name is Teresa Jones, and CNN reached out to her, and she told us it was common knowledge that Roy dated high school girls. Everyone we knew thought it was weird. We wondered why someone his age would hang out at high school football games and at the mall. Oh. But you really wouldn't say anything to someone like that. So she is saying it was common knowledge. For now, we're not seeing many cracks in his base of support.
So it's common knowledge to the people who grew up in this little county. It's common knowledge that he trolled the shopping malls, that he trolled civics classes, that he asked, 14-year-olds out on dates, that he... isn't that the same as Joseph and Mary? I mean, didn't Joseph troll the shopping malls to find Mary? It's the same, right? You know what? This is like if Lolita was a John Hughes film. I mean, this is just so... And then there's Steve Bannon, who just sent reporters down to Alabama to kill this story, to intimidate more women. I mean, it's unbelievable. And now if somebody could be jailed for looking like a child molester, it would be Steve Bannon. Just saying. He would be in jail, but I mean, 5 girls, and people are wondering, who do we believe? Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.